My name is Saideep. I am 8 years old. Atlanta, Georgia. I moved to Atlanta. I moved from New Jersey to Atlanta. Yeah, I went by drive. It was probably 5. Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and the Carolinas. Newark, New Jersey. That doesn't count because I went into those states. I know about how the freedom for the Americans came, how slavery was abolished, how women got their rights, and tons of other. Slavery was in America, in America from the 1600s to the end of the Civil War, April 9th, 1865. Yeah, General Robert Lee surrendered to General Ulysses Grant. Slavery was basically whites owning blacks. Like, not to be racist, but those guys were owning each other. Well, one person was President Abraham Lincoln, and he met with another abolitionist by the name of Frederick Douglass. They helped recruit recruit some kind of like Douglass's race of soldiers, and they helped get the pay equal between both. It was trouble because there was a war coming just to end slavery. Yes, Civil War. Civil War was 4 years because it started in 1861, ended in 1865. It's basically people say it's brother against brother. Like, some families were split up and they had to fight each other. Even President Lincoln's own family. Yup, because Lincoln's wife's family owned slaves. Okay. So they fought against Lincoln family, who was president of the United States. Well, they made Robert E. Lee, general of the Confederate soldiers, surrender. Surrender to whom? To the Union General Ulysses S. Grant. Well, in the Civil War, the Confederate was called the Confederate States of America, but the Union was called the United States of America. It was formed in the 1700s. We had 13 colonies. And these colonies wanted to be free except for the Loyalists, who fought on the British side. Okay. Then there were Patriots. Okay. And the Patriots all went to the Second Continental Congress. Okay. And the Congress told 5 men to write a declaration which will state our independence. Those 5 men were Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston. When was that? That was 1776. No, but I remember the date the declaration was passed. George Washington, the first president of the United States. Why he was the first president? Why not anybody else? Originally people wanted Ben Franklin too, but Ben Franklin was endorsing George Washington. And everyone else wanted Washington to become president as well, so Washington became president. 8 years because he served 2 terms. He was getting tired and he had come up with pneumonia recently, so he didn't come up. Well, it was before FDR, but after FDR, the Bill of Rights formed an amendment, the 22nd Amendment, especially, saying that no president can be elected more than 2 times. Well, there was a president after FDR. His name was Harry Truman. That's the S stood for nothing. Well, he was president at that time, and Congress passed a bill that no president could they could not pass 2 terms. And Roosevelt was running for terms a lot. He even ran for a 4th term. And when Truman was elected, Roosevelt had recently died in office. So they passed that So they wrote that bill, and Truman, the president, Harry Truman, he signed it because he himself didn't want to die in office while serving his own country in the executive branch. That went to the Constitution. Before Truman, 32. All from 1 to 44. George Washington was number 1. John Adams was number 2. Thomas Jefferson was number 3. James Madison was number 4. James Monroe was number 5. John Quincy Adams was number 6. Andrew Jackson was number 7. Martin Van Buren was number 8. Number 9 was William Henry Harrison. Number 10 was John Tyler. Number 11 was James Polk. Number 12 was Zachary Taylor. Number 13 was Millard Fillmore. Number 14 was Franklin Pierce. Number 15 is James Buchanan. Number 16 is my favorite, Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, number 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 17 is Andrew Johnson. Number 18 is Ulysses Grant. Basically, Ulysses Grant. Number 19 was Rutherford Hayes. People called him Rutherford Hayes.
Okay.
Number 20 was James Garfield. Number 21 was Chester A. Arthur. Number 22 was Grover Cleveland. Number 23 was Benjamin Harrison. Number 24 was Grover Cleveland again. I know I mentioned him. He was the first and only president to run 2 consecutive terms. Anyway, number 25 was William McKinley. Number 26 was Teddy Roosevelt. His actual name is Theodore Roosevelt. Number 27 was William Taft. Number 28 was Woodrow Wilson. Number 29 was Warren Harding. Number 30 was Calvin Coolidge. Number 31 was Herbert Hoover. Number 32, I mentioned this guy before, but Franklin D. Roosevelt. Number 33, I also mentioned, but Harry Truman. Number 34 is Dwight David Eisenhower. Number 35, I didn't mention him, but JFK, John F. Kennedy. Number 36 is Lyndon B. Johnson. Number 37 is Richard Nixon. Number 38 is Gerald Ford. Number 39 is Jimmy Carter. Number 40 is Ronald Reagan. 41st president was George Bush. 42nd president is Bill Clinton. 43rd president was George W. Bush. And 41st president right now and currently is Barack Obama. Well, I have lots of books at my house about presidents. Well, for one reason, they're the head of the whole country.
Okay. Any other reason?
They're the head of the executive branch. They could basically control all the foreign diplomacies to any other country.
Like power?
That they are the head. Plus, they could also pass laws. And our laws today would not be without the President of the United States of America. Well, I got my first book at 5, but I actually started 3 or 4. I first came to know about presidents when I saw a picture of Barack Obama. Well, recently he had a second term. Well, if I told him in the list his name is Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, and anybody?
Huh?
And second president?
Second favorite would be George Washington. Well, Lincoln freed the slaves. Washington freed the country. 1781, and the Treaty of Paris was written in 1783. 1860 was his election. 1861 was when he inaugurated, and he served to 1864. Well, then he started his second term in 1864. He inaugurated in 1865, and he died in 1865. I keep on reading. Yes, I do.
What do you read about them?
I read about their life. I read about what they do. Well, they're interesting. Without the president, there would be no laws. We could do whatever we want. And since there are laws, so we could make no more laws, I should be president. He could send diplomats, national diplomats, to other countries to settle peace. Yes, and when I become president, which may or may not happen, I will do that too. I could make laws. I could send national diplomats to other countries. Could even appoint my own Secretary of State, which can basically control those diplomats. I'll join the Democratic Party, and I'll run for many different jobs before the president, like senator, a representative, probably vice president, the Supreme Court of a city. That's the local government, the city.
Which one?
The city's government is the local.
So,
Yeah, we had the mayor, which I want to be my first job, the mayor,
okay.
because, there's a saying, Theodore Roosevelt, it says, speak softly and carry a big stick, you will go far. No, that's a saying by Theodore Roosevelt. What it means in my way is I should start from the lowest level and go up to the upper levels. I will achieve my dreams. I could start in 18 since I could vote there.
Okay.
And then I could go up and, like Roosevelt said, I need to speak softly, and which means I'll start at the lower levels, carry a big stick, which will mean go a little to the upper levels. I will go far. I'll even go to, after president, I have another goal, which might be my last goal.
What is that?
Supreme Court Justice. Supreme Court Justice. Yes, there was this President William Taft. He ran for president. And after Woodrow Wilson's term, there was this president named Warren Harding. He appointed Taft to become not a normal justice, but Chief Justice. Yeah, I at least want to be a justice.
Okay.
If Chief Justice, it will be a huge honor for me.
Why?
Whatever I say, it goes. Yes, they're creating a fair judgment. Whatever they say, it goes. Yeah, just to help the country.
Okay.
I'd even like to be the Secretary of State, Vice President, all this stuff. You can be a class president. You could be a school council. I know about the United States, but not that much about other countries. I know how segregation was stopped in Africa, and I know how modern government was paved. It was paved in England. I know where the world's biggest democracy is. That's in India. There was Mahatma Gandhi. He was a freedom fighter. He used non-violence, though, like Ben Franklin. He is the Ben Franklin of India, in my words. And because he's a freedom fighter, and he even inspired Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, Mahatma Gandhi. I didn't read much about him. I basically listened from my dad about him. I did like reading about him. They should. As Theodore Roosevelt said, speak softly and carry a big stick. You'll go far. Well, what they could do is just join a political party and be a big endorser, and then one day they'll be in the nominations. If they want to help someone out with medical. I mentioned that a lot of times now, but speak softly and carry a big stick. Well, study hard. That's the first thing you do, so you will get a huge seat in a college. And then you should study some subject there, anything you want. And then you can get a profession in that, and then a job. My family, I have my dad over there. His name is Prabhakar Pallavi.
Okay.
My mom, who is upstairs here,
Okay.
her name is Samata Kodali. And my sister, her name is Saideep Palvai. I only get it from my parents. Because my sister keeps urging me to become a gamer.
Gamer?
Yeah.
What gamer?
Like, to develop games on a laptop.
Oh, do you like to develop games?
I would like to, but I'll do that after I retire. George Washington knew all his cabinet people and vice president, of course, the vice president, before he became president of the United States. John Adams was more famous for being a grouch.
What is grouch?
Grouch is some grumpy guy who's grumpy all the time.
Okay.
Than being president.
Okay.
Thomas Jefferson was a Democratic Republican, but people, like some Democratic Republicans, thought he became a dreadful Federalist, and they formed a third party called the Tertium Quids. James Madison was a good speechmaker, and he wrote the farewell address for Washington. He wrote the Federalist Papers along with Hamilton. And James Monroe, before he became president, he helped with the Louisiana Purchase. He helped Robert Livingston. Yeah. Livingston was, in fact, one of the people on the committee to write the Declaration. And John Quincy Adams, he loved his father, who was a Federalist buddy. But in the War of 1812, Federalists were totally wiped out. So he had to become a dreadful Democratic Republican. And then when Andrew Jackson became president, Adams had already founded a third party, which he merged with the Tertium Quids, called the National Republicans. So Jackson won. When Buren, Jackson's vice president, people called him a little magician. William Henry Harrison was cursed in the War of 1812, which led from 1842 all the way to Ronald Reagan's time, actually, which was 9th president to 40th president. And what else? John Tyler was the first president to become president because his predecessor died. And Zachary Taylor was the only president to die outside the 20-year curse, which is broken now. And Millard Fillmore was the last Whig president because they were getting wiped out because of the issue of slavery and the breaking of the Missouri Compromise and the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Franklin Pierce was friends of Lincoln's political rival, Stephen Douglas. James Buchanan was president on the brink of Civil War. Lincoln freed the slaves. Andrew Johnson was the first president to be impeached. He was not found guilty. Okay. No, not yet. Ulysses S. Grant was the first Civil War general to become president. Rutherford Hayes was called Rutherford Hayes. Funny. James A. Garfield's last name, after James A. Garfield died, there's this TV show named after him called Garfield. Chester Arthur had a TV show named after him too. It was Arthur. Grover Cleveland was the only president to serve 2 consecutive terms. Benjamin Harrison fought against Native Americans in the Civil War. Native Americans helped the Confederates. And William McKinley was the last president to fight in the Civil War. Teddy Roosevelt made this famous saying, which even I'm inspired by.
Same thing.
Yeah, speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far. William Howard Taft was the fattest president ever. And in his own bathtub, four normal-sized presidents could fit in it.
Wow. Okay.
And like I watched this video about him, and they said one Taft bathtub was enough to fit George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Richard Nixon, and John F. Kennedy. Woodrow Wilson declared peace, and he couldn't help leading our country into World War I. He wanted peace. He started the League of Nations. Warren Harding died before he became impeached. Calvin Coolidge, basically, some people said that he only spoke 29 words in his life. Coolidge, yeah. Herbert Hoover was president. Like, people said this, but it was all Hoover's fault that the Depression started. FDR died just in the month of World War II ended. And like Lincoln, he couldn't see his whole cause coming.
Do you want to say anything about current President Barack Obama?
Yeah, I'm gonna come to that. Harry Truman bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Dwight D. Eisenhower was the first World War II president to become president. JFK was the youngest president to be elected by election. Teddy Roosevelt was the youngest president to be elected by succession because William McKinley died of a gunshot.
Is younger than Obama?
Huh?
Was younger than Barack Obama?
Yeah, they're younger than Obama. And after that, what? Oh yeah. Lyndon B. Johnson refused to run for a second term. And Richard Nixon was the first and only president right now to resign from office. Gerald Ford was the first and only president to not be elected to the office of the vice president or president. Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer, which everyone knows, before he became president. Ronald Reagan was the oldest president, even though at death Gerald Ford was older than him. And George Bush spoke with Michael Gorbachev, and he continued the Reagan's tradition. Bill Clinton was the last president to be impeached. He was not found guilty. And George W. Bush was president during the 9/11 attacks on the Pentagon, the Twin Towers, and it was either heading to the White House or the Capitol building, but it crashed into Pennsylvania Valley. And Barack Obama is our current president, and that's all I have to say.